Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Community Elder. I am your host, Robert Tate. I thank you all for tuning in, for watching, for liking, for sharing, for subscribing. So appreciative to you all. I'm blown away by the kindness that you've shown me. Grateful to you all for your time and for your patience as we work hard to provide better content and make this channel better. To just try to help, inspire, and encourage someone who may be having a hard and heavy day, a difficult week, or just a spotty moment. That's the purpose and the point of the Community Elder, to try to help someone somewhere to just reach out and do what we can to provide some kind of community service to you. Today, I'm full of gratitude, grateful and thankful to God for providing me another opportunity just to be here and just to speak with you all. So without further ado, you know I don't like beleaguering the point and just rambling. So let's go ahead and get into it. I've always loved John, the book of John in the Bible, because of the presentation of how John shows us Jesus, or how he introduces Jesus to us. John says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And it says, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory as the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Which tells us that God left Shekinah glory. He left heaven. He left the palace, where the streets are paved with gold, where the walls are jasper, where the gates are pearl. He left all of that and decided to come and pitch a tent among us. And this is a display of anthropomorphism, as we see God in human flesh as he pitches a tent and dwells among us. Has a mailbox planted, has an address. The carpenter from Nazareth, whom the builders rejected, has become the chief cornerstone. This is who we're talking about, the Word, as John calls him. One of the things that's very interesting about the Word, or about Jesus in this particular text, when you get to the 4th chapter of John, we see that Jesus has entered Samaria. And upon entering Samaria, he makes his way to a town called Sychar. And we learn that Jesus is weary from a long journey. And so now he's sitting at Jacob's well. As he sits at Jacob's well, here comes a small Samaritan woman who's made a journey of her own to draw water from a well to take back home, to help replenish others, and to cure any thirst needs that may exist. We learned that it's 12 noon and Jesus is sitting at this well by himself because the disciples themselves have gone to town to buy food. And so this is an interesting moment to me, because Jesus now asks a woman for something that he is. In this moment, he asks her for water. And it's amazing to me because she fulfills the request, but asks the question, how could you, being a Jew, ask me, a Samaritan, for anything? Because we don't dialogue, we don't have relationship. There is conflict. Because when you trace the past history, we learn that once the Assyrians were overtaken, foreigners come into the land, and there is what we call race mixing. So the Jews that are pure blood Jews don't mix with Samaritans because they call them mixed race. They're not purebred. So no one steps foot in Samaria. No one has dealings with these people because of historical conflict. And sadly, that kind of describes our nation. We have all the reasons in the world not to deal with each other, not to speak to each other, not to work together to come to a common goal. And it's all because of common history and things that have been done to affect us. And so separation still exists then like it does now. And so as they have this conversation, Jesus replies, if you only knew the gift God has for you and who you are speaking to, you would ask me, and I would give you living water. She says, but sir, you don't have a rope or a bucket. So she gets sassy. You don't have a rope or a bucket. And this well is deep. Where would you get this living water? Notice the dialogue between them. And besides, do you think that you're better than Jacob and his sons who gave us this well? How can you offer better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoy? Now see, at this moment, she thinks that Jesus is still referencing the water that cures thirst. She has no idea that he is referencing water that is spiritual water, that is food for the soul, for the body, and for the mind. A resurrecting type of water that builds up the bowels of your stomach like wells of water and causes you to overflow. She has no idea what type of water that he's talking about. So he replies, anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again. But the water that I give, if you drink of it, you will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them of living water, providing eternal life. And yes, you will never thirst again. Of which she responds, sir, please give me this water, and I will never thirst, neither come hither to draw. Jesus, saying that she has a desire for what he is offering, asks a question. And this is profound because it shows his divinity. He said, go ask your husband. She said, sir, I don't have a husband. He said, you've answered well. You told the truth because you've had 5, and the one that you live with now is not yours. And this is when she says, sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. Not because he judged her. Not because he was mean-spirited to her. But he prophesied in her life the things that he had seen. But in this moment, he is still willing to offer her living water. So this in itself shows us that Jesus is not like man. No, not at all. He's not like man, that he would judge you and look down on you and treat you as one being despicable for the faults and failures of your life. But instead, he is willing to offer you a living water that you'll never thirst again. And I promise to be short on today, but I need you to grab a hold of this. Though you may have gone off the path that's been designed for you, I need you to understand and recognize that God's ultimate will is still destined for your life. See, there is a circumstantial will that we all fall into fate with. Because of free will, we have circumstantial will, which allows us to do the things that we think are right. So we have our own desires, we have our own dreams, we have our own visions, and sometimes we follow what we choose to follow, and it gets us off path. But God, in his infinite wisdom, understands better than anyone that his ultimate will must be done in our lives. So as we come to the intersection of circumstantial will and ultimate will, we must know that ultimate will, which is God's will, must reign supreme in our lives, which means what? His will must be done. So even though you've had your struggles, he still offers living water. Even though you've had your pitfalls, he still offers living water. Even though you feel strung out and wrapped up and tied up in your sin, I need you to look at the woman from Samaria on today. One, she was a Samaritan, which means what? She was considered unclean. No Jew will come in contact with her, nor have a discussion with her, nor offer her anything from a provisional perspective that could be life-changing or life-altering for her. 2, she's in sin. Jesus poses the question, go ask your husband. And he says, the 5 that you had are dead and the one that you live with is not your own. So right now she's stuck in a sin state, and he still offers living water, which means that reconciliation is always present with God. He sees you not for what you are, but what you can become. And once you connect to the true vine, there is a recognition that every time God looks at you, he's blinded by the one we call Jesus. Let me say that again. Once you connect to the true vine, I need you to understand that when God looks at you, he sees Jesus. Because now you have shedded off the old man and taken on the new man, and you are one with Christ. And you never thirst again. Because out of thy belly shall flow rivers of living water, and you never thirst again. And she got it without hearing the gospel. One who was considered ceremonially unclean, one who was living in sin, she got it. She leaves all of her utensils and she runs to town and she says, come see a man that told me all of my life in front of my face. And instead of rejecting me, he made me an offer that I could not refuse. Come see a man. And that's what I ask each and every one of you to do today. Reclaim your connection. If you don't have one, establish your connection. Reclaim your connection. And I close with this. The prophetic Lecrae says something that sticks out to me. I never forget it. I always implant it in my head. He says the master artist wants to make your mess a masterpiece regardless. The master artist makes your mess a masterpiece regardless. Grab hold to that which is yours and hold tight to it and cling to it, and never allow anyone to separate you from it. You are more than conquerors, you are victors. And this day, I need you to recognize who you are and what you represent. There is an offer of living water on the table. And based off free will, you have the opportunity to accept it or reject it. My wish is that you would accept it this day. If you've accepted and walked away from it, reclaim what's yours. I love you. I go in peace and I appreciate you. As you exit, I ask that you like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the video, and put a comment down in the comment section. I pray that your days and your weeks and your months and your years be blessed. And as always, I thank you for joining. Psalms 131 says, behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. And when we ball our hands up, we make a fist. When we open our hands, it's a form or a sign of surrender. We're much more powerful when we're unified. And I thank God in each and every one of you. Be blessed. Peace.